shall be smitten, here the bondage shall be broken. Where are you, freemen? Where are you, nobles, men of great names? Where are you? Luther, every Christian is anointed and sanctified in body and soul with the oil of the Holy Spirit. An early portrait by Cranach, 1502, fresh with that morning. What remains when genius is consumed in polemic, as Erasmus, 1521, would complain? And the more I love the inborn ability of Hutton, the more I grieve that it was snatched away from us by these disorders. For what did it avail to have Reuchlin, burdened enough thus far, weighed down with heavier ill will? Luther could have taught the evangelical philosophy with great profit to the Christian flock, if he had refrained from those things which could only end in disturbance. The last portrait of Cranach, half a century later, gives a solemn answer. In the deeper hardening of Europe, of which Erasmus grieves in his last letters, the Anabaptists, a race of men frenzied and devoted to death, have inundated Lower Germany. Vives writes that John Vergara, together with Brother Tovar and several other learned men, is in prison. You know, I imagine, that the three most learned men in all England are in jail, the Bishop of Rochester, the Bishop of London, and Thomas More, a dearer friend than any other I have ever had. Man withdraws into a stronghold of consciousness. Ein fester Burg ist unser Gott. Aus tiefer Not schrei ich zu dir. From the depths of need I cry to thee. Old Barcelona summarizes 2,000 years in the history of Spain. What is visible ranges from Roman at the heavy-walled base, through Gothic and flamboyant, to a filigree of Rococo at the crown. Though buried below are cyclopean walls of the pre-Greek, Greek shards and marble, traces of Carthage, while the city spreads beyond to the Art Nouveau fantasies of Gaudi. The Spain of colonial conquest rested on that base with all the levels of period style. At the end of the 12th century at Compostela, Romanesque is shading into Gothic, as in France, but with an archaic, wild excess. And in the contemporary conducti from Ripoli, note against note chords, dance Ile-de-France rhythms. By 1400, French, Italian, and Flemish are fused as everywhere into an international Gothic, which in Des Tournes sets up one of many signs on the way to Barche. In Catalan music also, the Hocket of Machaut and the Italians softens toward familiar style. During that century, the most impassioned realism was absorbed from Avignon, Flanders, and the North Italian, to toughen in Bermejo, 1490, as in the music of De la Torre, to a Cid militance of carnal faith, Adoramos te, Señor. At this point, the daring of a Genoese navigator opened the New World to a crusading energy which had barely consolidated a subcontinent, broken by Dark Age invasions, Moors, and chivalry. All the nations of Europe have been mad, and so variously no one could name the maddest, but the Spanish must rank high. What went over the sea in German imperial dress, and with all the financing and skill of Flemish bottoms, under the protection, of course, of the Papal Virgin, had the outward style and softness of high Renaissance Italian, but it bore from the windy uplands where Gothic Moorish castles were still being built, and ballad laments of the fall of Granada sung, a chivalric mysticism, that would lash conquistadores from Mexico clear to Panama and Colorado. For ships from the engineering West to encounter the Stone Age was not so remarkable. What must have staggered the moral being was to confront a civilization in some way higher than their own, though evolved in isolation from a primitive base and without even the use of the wheel. Cities larger and richer than theirs, an astronomical calendar, libraries of religion and law, and an art that left Dürer speechless when he saw its spoils in Antwerp. A civilization with an already mythic past, Teotihuacan, deserted 1,000 years before, its pyramids of the sun and moon and street of the dead, called by the living Aztecs work of the gods. A new world of wonders spread out in time and space. 600 miles south and east, the Maya ruins, upland, lowland, peninsula, lost in forest, Palenque, sunlit under a leafy sea. A life, music, and poetry, fabulous then, irrecoverable now. Though the carved plinths and stele, this from the Temple of the Cross at Palenque, some death god or panther priest smoking a ritual cigar, cult scenes alive with what Christendom had long since banished into hell, recover one thing for us instantly, the crusading Christian jolt in the presence of a tradition so refined and so idolatrously savage, alien as the Popol Vuh sequence this relief suggests, when Hunter and Seven Hunter, and later Hunter and Jaguar Deer, gone to the underworld house of darkness, where the gods hot seat them and laugh like a swarm of flies, are given cigars they must smoke all night and return in the morning unconsumed. And as if to raise the strain beyond psychic endurance, the antithesis had grown in the Aztec Empire to such a sublimity and terror as this colossal goddess of the serpent skirt, found later under the charred ruins of what had been the greatest city of the world, drives home. A more than Moloch, more than Bhagavad Gita divinity of vulture and snake, a monolith of rattle, talon, and fang, which all the human sacrifices of Montezuma's rule of art, justice, and wisdom could not appease. What could Christian chivalry do, pledged since Roland to archangelic war, this night spearing a devil in the 12th century frescoes of Tavant, Columbus too having told the Cuban chief, where no Caribs would survive, that the first cause of his coming was to instruct them in godly knowledge and true religion, though he was then amassing gold, and especially to punish the cannibals and such mischievous evildoers. What could that conquering Inquisition do with a mystery as beyond its ken as the plumed serpent, but melt into bouillon its ornaments and idols, and gathering from cities and libraries all codices, pictographs, and writings, to the priestly censing and sprinkling eradicate, in one giant auto da fe, the entire civilized evidence of a world they would occupy, as a virus takes over the genetic mechanism of the host, while Luther at the same time threw his inkwell at the devil to exorcise what blasted him within. By 1518, Juan de Grijalva was exploring westward from the island of Cozumel. His chaplain describes towns on the coast of Yucatan, and to the south a walled city, the ruins now of Tulum. Next day, a little before sunset, we perceived far in the distance a town or village so big that the city of Seville could not appear larger or better, and a huge tower was seen in it. It was the beginning of the thrust that would take Cortez to the throne of Mexico. At the heart of that conquest lies an exploit, weird as the satanic invention of cannon in Paradise Lost. When the assault hinged on gunpowder, the Cavalier Montaño, with 4 other Spaniards, climbed to the 3-mile-high crater of Popocatépetl, and was lowered in a basket repeatedly, 400 feet, into a deeper hellhole of smoke and flame, to scrape off sulfur from the lava walls. That fiery brimstone fed the final massacring charge on Mexico City. palpable, that the damned eruption Bosch divined in panels fondly acquired by the Spanish crown powered the reduction of new worlds. In Irving's Columbus, as signs of land multiply and no land appears, the sailors think them signs of the devil, delusions beguiling them on to destruction. While Columbus praises the goodness of God in thus conducting them by soft breezes across a tranquil ocean, with fresh signs guiding them to a promised land. Against jealous temptation, the kindly rewarder of the temporal quest. And the proof was at hand, the land, though it too might seduce with power. But whatever the backward urge or forward danger, the die was cast. Leonardo's angel and John were smiling, his girl pointing across the stream. His bearded face was wise with futurity. Giorgione learned it from Leonardo, the accord of nature and man, this gypsy and soldier, his own birth illegitimate, like a rest on the flight with a nude Mary and profane Joseph. Was that enchantment as merely ideal as the pastoral elegy Sannazaro now wreathed in the harmonies Milton would love and pursue? Thee, shepherd, thee the woods and desert caves with wild thyme and the gadding vine o'ergrown, and all their echoes mourn. I fiumi il sanno, e le spelunche I faggi, and like Lycidas, Sannazzaro's lament leads to an Arcadian paradise, where other groves and other streams along, altri monti, altri piani, altri boschetti e rivi, vedi nel cielo, e più novelli fiori, till all that heaven rejoices to hear their new and unaccustomed voices. If any spirit of love among you dwell, oaks of shade and gloom, cast here a shadow for this quiet tomb. Se spirito alcun d'amor vive fra voi, querce frondose folte, fate ombra alla quiete ossa sepolte. What is the gift of art if not to make dream real, but the symbolic dream of total, ambiguous reality? Giorgione's gypsy family, the richest strain of Venetian high Renaissance, takes its usual title, La Tempesta, from its cloud and lightning sky, a demon flash in the beckoning of calm. Leonardo, force is of brief duration, because it desires perpetually to subdue its cause, and when this is subdued, it kills itself. One ought not to desire the impossible.